This is the Discovery Optics ED-LHT Gen 2. Now, ED usually stands for extra low dispersion glass, but we're going to see if this budget scope truly has Japanese ED glass, or if that ED is just a nickname for Edward. It's not unusual for budget scopes to offer accessories along with their optic, but Discovery takes this to a whole nother level. Let's just skip ahead and see what you get in the box. Now, the sheer quantity of accessories you get in the box is certainly impressive, all the more so because this isn't just cheap crap that you'd throw away. It's comparable to third-party accessories and mounts that people pay money for, and you are getting it included with the scope, so that's a value. This is the Discovery Optics LHT 3 to 15 by 50 millimeter scope. Nice big 50 millimeter objective, so you're going to get a lot of light. There is illumination, there's a battery in here, so that's good. And it has an offsetting in between, so that once you have an illumination that you will particularly like, you can just quickly turn it off. We do have a parallax focus from infinity all the way down to 15 yards, though interestingly it says H15L8, which I take to mean that it has a high of 15 yards and a low to 8 yards, so its minimum focus is somewhere in between those two distances. I think that's what that means. I couldn't find any reference to that in the manual, but if you happen to know, please leave a comment. And let's take a look at these turrets. These are not locking, from what I can tell. I do like the fact that they are a simple slot to unscrew that big cap nut. You can pull this up and drop it down, and it does have a zero stop, so that is also a nice little feature, and that's what it does come with an Allen key, and that's use that to set up this zero stop. There is a little gear tooth there, and that lines up with this little cog tooth here. So you can set your zero and it'll stop right at that point. Now let's just check out this turret here. Oh, nice. Nicely loud and tactile positive. Just a little bit of jiggle, but it will not slip before it engages to the next index, so that's good. Let's check out the windage. Similar in feel and audible. Now let's check out this magnification ring. Pretty smooth. You can hear a little bit of friction, but I don't feel any significant grittiness. And it has a good amount of friction so that you don't have to worry about it slipping accidentally to a different magnification, but it's not too difficult that, well, you can add a throw lever, but honestly, I think I'd be fine without it. And let's just check out this diopter. Oh, pretty smooth. You can hear a little bit of grittiness, but I don't really feel it, except for just at the very end. So that's the scope itself. I know this is a scope review, not a ring review, but since this scope does come with its own rings, and we're going to be using these scope rings to mount the scope, I thought it'd be worthwhile to take a minute and look at these. And these are nicely designed. There are lightning cuts along the base to reduce weight, and also along the top. These cut-ins reduce weight, but still keep it strong and rigid. And it has 4 Torx screws, not just hex screws, to mount this down. It even tells you how much torque to apply to them, 20 inch-pounds, so that's nice. And I like this, that it tells you the diameter of this scope ring and the height. If you've ever collected a bunch of random scope rings in your spare parts box, this is really helpful that it tells you the size of this ring. It also tells you how many inch-pounds to apply to the base, and it has 2 screws there, so that'll keep it securely in place. And it has a recoil lug, so even if you have a magnum caliber that you're shooting with, this will keep your rings securely in place. So overall nice, and it even includes a spare set of screws and an Allen key to mount the ring. So overall nicely designed rings. We are looking through the Discovery Optics LHT at its lowest power of 3 to give our best overall image through the glass, because as we do increase magnification, we are just magnifying all the faults in the glass. And let's bring it up to it's about halfway through its range to about 7 power. That's where we're at right now. And we're looking at the peak of Mount Davidson, which is approximately 1,400 yards away. And you could also notice the enlarging of the first focal plane reticle there. So let's bring it up to its maximum, which is 15. And we did see a noticeable drop in brightness as we got to its maximum magnification. But the overall image is still pretty darn clear and sharp from the center to the outer edge, with just a little bit of softening just at the very outer edge, but not bad. And we can make out pretty much just near the center, just a little above the center crosshairs, a white object poking up through above the bushes there. That is a trail marker sign at the top of the hill, which is a 36-inch tall steel sign on top of an 8-foot pole. That's a good proxy for what a steel target would look like at this distance. I took the scope to the range and set up some reference targets, and now would be a great time for you to take a second and hit the like and subscribe buttons. It just takes a second while I walk down to the 100-yard benches and set up our observation point. We're looking at it at its lowest power of 3 for our best overall image through the glass. And it would be a good opportunity now to test out its illumination. And this has an off in between, so let's actually look at it at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you can see that only the very center cruciform on the reticle is illuminated. Certainly not daylight bright. Let's take a look at our range of adjustments. Starting with the elevation, that's the top, and that's the bottom, and that little vignetting at the bottom there, that is the edge of the eye box that you're seeing. And yeah, the LHT has a pretty unforgiving eye box. Okay, and let's try our windage. Okay, that's all the way to the left. Oh, sorry, all the way to the right. And now let's head it all the way to the left. Now let's bring it up, our magnification up to about halfway, which is 7. Now let's bring it all the way up. All right, let's do a box test. Let's do a full rotation on our elevation. Full rotation on our windage. Back on our elevation. And then back to 0 on our windage. There we go. Okay, let's do our nipple twister abuse test. Alright, let's get this back to 0. 0 on our elevation. And then back to 0 on our windage. Well, the turrets are pretty darn good. Next, let's take a look at its optical characteristics. Alright, we're going to take a look at a still image so we're not distracted by any heat shimmer. Now overall the image is quite good, especially for a 15 power scope. It's bright enough that I can make out detail in the shadowed backstop behind the target, and though that texturing are the bullet splashes on the steel. Now we did lose a bit of contrast. The darkest parts have gone a bit gray through the image at 15 power. But overall, it is equally sharp from center all the way out to the outer edge. Now in the outer edges, you can see some chromatic aberration. You can see that as a purple fringe on the target to the right. But the chromatic aberration on the center part of the scope image is pretty minimal. Now, I have to apologize. I thought I adjusted the diopter so the entire reticle was in focus, but as you can see, only the very center of the reticle is in focus. Now, you can adjust it so the reticle is nice and crisp and clean with the naked eye, and this is quite a fine reticle, which is ideal for long-range precision shooters. Now, looking at the color reference chart on the top left, the colors may be a bit muted but accurate, and what's more significant is you can make out the individual gray squares in the color bars running up the vertical. Moving down to the paper target on the bottom left, we can easily make out the bullet holes on the reactive sticker target, but more significantly, I can also make out 2 additional tiny 22 caliber holes below that sticker target. And in the Air Force optical resolution chart on the bottom right, I can make out both horizontal and vertical lines down to element 4 in group -1, and even finer still with my naked eye. Now, this is significant for a 15 power scope, especially a budget one. This is the level of resolution one can expect from a 24 or 25 power scope. Now, the only real negatives I experienced in this testing is that this scope has a pretty tight eye box even at low power, and as I mentioned earlier, that bit of chromatic aberration on the outer edge of your image. Alright, before we get into the ED-LHT, I'd like to ask you to hit that subscribe button right now. It just takes a second, and it doesn't cost you anything. It's absolutely free. They don't charge you to subscribe to YouTube channels. You're just letting the algorithm know that this is the kind of content you like to watch, and you'll start seeing more of the videos from my channel suggested to you. And of course, if you like this video, be sure to hit that like button and the notification bell so you'll be notified when I post my next video. Alright, I want to thank Discovery Optics for sending this out for me to test and evaluate, and I certainly was impressed with the scope, as you saw, and of course all this extra stuff they included in the box. You know, that seems a little sus, but the accessories they included are actually pretty legit. But more importantly, the scope is pretty legit. You saw in my testing. This is surprisingly sharp, bright, and clear, and certainly it's not without its limitations. It's got an eye box that's rather unforgiving, but otherwise, for the price that you're paying for this, for under $400 with a scope like this and all the accessories you're getting, yeah, I think it's a good value. And certainly, Discovery may be a new brand to you. They do have a lifetime unconditional warranty. So, and to be honest, I actually, the first scope that I got from them had a little problem with the throw lever. It didn't screw in, it wasn't threaded, milled properly. The threading was not quite right. So they sent me a new one, and they sent me a return label for the defective scope, even though it was just the throw lever that was the problem. So that just says something about their level of customer service. But let me know in the comments what kind of experience or you've had with them, whether good or ill, or your perceptions of the company. And if you're interested in picking up this scope, I'll include product links as well as more information in my full written review at moondogindustries.com. I'll include a link to that article in this video's description. Anyway, thanks again for watching. You be safe out there. Moondog, out. Hey, I'd like to know what you thought of this video. Leave me a comment or chat with me on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, MeWe, Instagram, or Locals. And if you want to see all of my videos, go to moondogindustries.com.